G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan the hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, the Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Hunters Campfire podcast. Tonight, as usual, Mark and I are here hosting another episode. So, good evening, Mark. How are you going?
Very well, mate. Very well. How are you?
Oh, yep, wonderful. It's been a busy week for you.
Yeah, no, I try to avoid busyness, but it's caught me this week.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder what you do for your day job, or maybe you do it in the evening, but that's all right. We'll get into a little bit of that a bit later on, Mark. And tonight we've got a guest with us, Juan Peters, good friend of mine and someone who's had a lot of experience around the world with his hunting. So good evening, Juan. Thanks for joining us, mate.
G'day, Mark and Ian. Glad to be part of the show and looking forward to chatting with you guys and passing on some of the stuff that I've done and some of the stuff that I've learned and my experience with you guys so far.
Very
awesome,
cool,
mate. Yep, really looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. Look, before we get into that, though, just a couple of things we want to run through. Mark, talking about your busyness, you picked up a new rifle and in quick time, we were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common, conversation piece about how long it takes a PTA or a permit to acquire to process. I happen to, based on a conversation we had a couple of podcasts ago about 22s, I thought I'd better buy one. So, because I don't own one. So I decided to buy one and I bought a lovely little lever action 22, a Chiapa. And so I went in there and I think the paperwork went in at about 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon from the shop that's on target with Matt Joseph there. And they process it through the store. And amazingly, I got an email from Weapons Licensing Saturday saying it's been approved. When I went,
on the weekend?
Yeah, I actually didn't really fully comprehend that email. I thought, I was just looking at the Monday email, but then I realised, hey, that came through on a Saturday. So I got an email on Saturday from them. And so on Monday, I got a text from the store when they were open. Hey, your PDA's here, all approved. Come and get your rifle. So, yeah, that's as quick as I don't know if I can get any quicker than that. But so that's gone through. So though I was talking to, various people, it seems that there's no rhyme nor reason to it. Some people are 10 minutes, some people are 10 days, some people are 10 weeks. It's I don't know what it is, but I was very happy with that. So the next thing obviously is start to sight in this little lever action and see how we go with it. So I'm very much looking forward to that, seeing what we can do with it.
And this little rifle's for your boys, or are you getting into the small game stuff a bit more?
Well, technically it can't be for my boys because they're not young enough, they're not old enough yet, and we don't do those kind of things. But when they get old enough, they may, it may, with proper licensing and proper, meeting all the requirements, there's probably a good chance that it might go that way.
Right.
Which is why I got a lever action, because they're both right-handed and I'm a lefty, so I thought about that for some time. There's plenty of junior or youth 22s out there, but I thought, no, don't get don't get a youth gun because they're tall boys and they'll outgrow it real quick. And two, don't start with a bolt action because it'll immediately kind of stop us from all using it together when legally allowed to.
Fair enough. So small games on the menu, which is interesting because we've had loads of conversations about small games, especially the guys over in the UK, and it's really sparked my interest, and I spent part of my day today, funnily enough, researching how long to age hare or jackrabbit, and whether it tastes any good and what process you go through. And like I've eaten rabbit, and that's quite nice. But I was really surprised to find out that in some parts of the world, some of the top star chefs, it is one of their signature dishes here. It is one of the most premium tasting meats that you can get. They liken it to venison, but a lot more delicate in its texture. Now, if you could tell me that you can get a slightly sweeter, softer, more pleasant version of venison, I'd bloody hell, the jackrabbits in my neighborhood going to get a touch up, tell you, because that sounds pretty good. And the medallions of meat that come off the side of each one, there's a reasonable amount for a meal.
Yeah, I mean, hares aren't small animals. I mean, they're obviously not, large game, but they're not that small. In fact, sometimes they kind of surprise you how big they are. So yeah, I would assume that a couple of hares would make a pretty good meal.
What do you reckon, Juan? You up for it?
Yeah, I'd eat it. I reckon they go nice on a barbecue when they're marinated and butterflied open.
Yeah, these guys were talking about I don't know if the word basting is right, but taking the back legs and bathing them in red wine and herbs for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
This is the top guys doing this, obviously, and I'm sure there's some other magic tricks that they do to it, but the juices that come out of the meat mixing with the wine turns it into quite a thick sauce, which they then use as the jus that goes over it later on, but it makes it super, super tender. I'm keen. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, in the UK, what they call it coursing. So basically, they chase them with dogs.
Yeah. Well, that's what I sort of want to do with Missy, the indicator, is just get her to indicate them, not flush them, but just indicate them.
No, I actually chase them down. The dogs.
Oh,
actually, yeah, they call it coursing, and they basically run them down.
Yeah, well, the one of the videos that I saw today while I was working was Gordon Ramsay chasing one down with a bald eagle, or someone with Gordon Ramsay, catching it with a bald eagle rather than shooting it. And then he went through the process of cooking it, which was pretty cool. Anyway, my interest is it's been sparked. Anyway, we'll see how we go. Other thing I wanted to talk about was, especially for Queensland, is there was a new petition. So people will know, or would have been, I don't know how long ago would it have been, Mark, when they did the last really big petition for advocating for state forest hunting?
I kind of think it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, I think it was too. And I don't know if it was before. No, it went into Palaszczuk's government, so it could have been any time in the last few years. But there's another one that's gone out that I sort of encourage everyone to get in behind. And yes, we know that people roll their eyes at the whole, petition process, trying to, get these things up, and they tend to ignore them, and you'll feel bad. But it keeps the conversation up there and people talking about it, and I think that's just as important. But this one is getting people to sign a petition to allow Queensland local councils, LGAs, to manage their own deer as a resource. Now, we'll get Reese to comment on this at some point. Reese came on earlier on. He looks after that state or public access for state forest group. But my understanding is, as the landholders, the local government authorities are allowed to give you permission to hunt on their public land, but generally for a specific purpose, like to knock back a herd of deer maybe that are running around a dam area or something like that, and that's been done before. I think this is to allow it to be more broadly available for hunters and the tourism that comes with it. So it becomes an income for that LGA. Well, not so much an income for the LGA, but a stimulus for the money that we all spend when we come into the areas, which we all know that we do when we go hunting in New South Wales. So it's an interesting one, Mark. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think I actually think I like it because it's thinking out of the box. So they're saying, like, it's too hard to convince a state government to make a decision that is across the state, but an LGA, and you would assume that an LGA, especially in a regional area, is going to have a lot of either land under the LGA, or they're going to have a lot more a close relationship with private landowners within that LGA who have problems with pigs or deer or goat or something, whatever like that. So, you could see that someone who was, and it might be seasonal. So, for instance, in an LGA where they have a crop, they might have a period of time each year where, they have a real problem with feral animals because of the effect on cropping or something like that. So you can see that there's some logic in that approach, and figuring out a way that LGA can actually decide, okay, we'll open up the land that we have access to and maybe bordering private land with supportive private landowners to hunting. And because they know that it'll bring in income. I think it's actually quite a good idea, and as I said, I think it's thinking out of the box.
Yeah, it's not something foreign to the area that I live. Some time ago, the Australian Deer Association was able to help the council with some deer culling programs. It's some time ago, but it's happened. So, yeah, look, hopefully this opens the door to another conversation. What I could ask listeners to do is go and have a look at that petition. We can't force anyone to sign it, but it's a good thing to be able to sign just to keep it up there, get the numbers there, show the government that there are a lot of voices in behind it. And I think watch this space. There's some more ideas floating around at the moment that hopefully will have legs, and it'll incorporate a lot more enthusiasts and hobbies, not just hunters, but all that use state forest and state land or would like to, because that will form a much bigger groundswell around the discussion, and hopefully that'll help us out too. But the fight continues. Last one. I had another listener, Frank again. He's been quite good at passing on some comments recently, and he was funny because he reached out and said, look, I really want to get into this state forest hunting that you're talking about, and I'm an R licensed assessor for the game licensing unit down in New South Wales, so I do those for our branch and for various others that are looking for someone to do the assessment. So he reached out and we were able to run one of those courses for him, but in the process of that, he talked to me about a feature that he found on the Garmin devices. Now, a few videos back, we talked about gear, and I spoke about GPSs and why I chose the GPS that I chose. And I chose the Garmin Alpha 100 because I need a GPS that can track a dog, because I hunt with an indicator. And one of the other GPSs that I was really interested in was the Rhino, because it has the ability to track your buddy. Two rhinos together, it grabs the signal, and you can do that. Now, I'm now informed that either via software update or just some sort of voodoo Garmin magic that's always been available. That's something I'll put the links to in this episode and probably on the Facebook page so people can find it. But that's a feature that I didn't know about, and that really plugs a lot of gaps for people.
Does it allow you to do the text messaging? Because, does the Alpha have a text function?
Well, yeah, it has the ability to use a QWERTY keyboard. And yeah, the part of the conversation with Frank was that you can send each other a message and you can show where you are on the map. Yeah. Bloody good.
I didn't know that.
So the only thing that the 100 won't have that I would like is in the two-way ability. But look, you can't have everything yet. So, and when you can, man, it'll be expensive. But that's all right.
Because we bought two of them. Me and a mate bought one each. We did them on a deal, but they weren't cheap. But we don't use them all the time. We use them for pretty specific reasons and locations. But certainly, the state forest hunt, being able to go, okay, this is what's happening. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, you're still going to need to be in some sort of range of the radio, but
yeah. Oh, no, even the fact that you can go, okay, well, they're over that side, we're over this side, and things like that, and understanding where people are. That's a very good idea.
So I'll test that out. I'll come back to you and let you know how it goes. But yeah, he's come up with a good feature there for sure. That's all I wanted to cover up front. So I want to have a yarn to one now, and all the awesome things that you've done over the last probably 5 years that I've known you. So by way of intro, I met Juan when you moved to Toowoomba.
Yep.
As part of a posting in the ADF.
Yeah.
And you were based out at Oki, I assume.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, how's my memory? And I imagine now, and I thought we were special, you came and joined our branch of the ADA, but it probably turns out that every time you get reposted, you find the local club, you join that club, and you're part of about 40 clubs around the world, no doubt now, and promising to return and be one of the mainstays. But we met when you joined the ADA branch in the Darling Downs.
Yeah, so
yeah, you're right.
Kind of funny what you were saying about the state land hunting, because that's one of the reasons I joined the Darling Downs branch. Because moving to Queensland and to Toowoomba, everything's all private land and can't state forest. So I was like, well, I'm up here. I wanted to have an opportunity to hunt red deer, and that's why I joined.
And we did.
Yeah, and we did.
Yep. So we had a good experience on one of the blocks that we had, where Juan was one of the new guys, and I was able to take him up onto one of these blocks, and he was able to track down and take out a red deer, which was a hell of a fun experience for both of us. It was a bit comical for quite a bit of it, but yeah, how'd you find that?
Yeah, that was great to be able to see the deer on the ridgeline and roar him in and get into 20, 30 yards and shoot him in the chest. It was pretty exciting. So
yeah, that was good fun. So with that, you've done quite a bit in your life. You're obviously part of the ADF still, and you're posting all over the place. So maybe just give us a background of who you are and what you're doing for work, and then of course how that translates into all of these opportunities you've had in your life for hunting.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a Melbourne boy, and I'm an electrical engineer. And I initially joined the Army back in 2005. I was posted up to Darwin as engineering officer, lieutenant. And I was just young and immature at the time, so I left after 2 years and sort of chased my engineering career. And during that time, moved back to Melbourne, back to home, and worked all over Victoria with a company called Silka or Siemens and Tees, joint venture. So that took me all over the place to, BlueScope Steel, NBN, Telstra. So sort of big contracting company doing all that sort of work as an engineer. And then went over to New Caledonia, worked over there briefly for 2 years for Glencore and Coniambo Nickel Mine, supporting a power station. And had that opportunity over there. It was great to fish and hunt and with the locals and made some really lifelong friends. It was a great opportunity. But had to come home and wanted to start a family. So came back to Australia and re-enlisted to the Army. And that's when I chose to go through an aviation stream and ended up in Oki, still electrical engineer, but on the aviation platform. Went up to Darwin following that posting in Oki to my first regimental posting up at One Haven in Darwin, so on the ARH Tigers. So, but yeah, since then, I've just come back from an overseas exchange posting to the United States with the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. And that was 2.5 years over there. And then now I've got a posting back to Melbourne, which is fantastic because I've been away from my wife and kids for all up 2.5 years. I got to see them in between, but just to be home and be with family and be back in Melbourne and be able to hunt deer and all my friends, and it's fantastic. So I've been lucky, been able to travel around and hunt different places like, New Caledonia, Darwin, America now. I've hunted briefly in New Zealand, so it's been a great opportunity. I made heaps of great friends. So yeah, that's a bit about my background. But this exchange opportunity in America was fantastic. It was a great opportunity, but it was tough because I left in 2019 in June, just before COVID, and then COVID hit early 2020. I was able to get home just before they closed the borders to see my family. But then I was required to go back and deploy with the Americans to Germany as part of this NATO deterrent force for the Russian, context that's over there with the Ukraine. This was in 2020, so did 12 months of deployment, or 9 months of deployment, but 12 months away from the family. And then, came back to America and finished off the rotation and then just came home. So,
and suffered your various different lockdowns. I remember one of the lockdowns you were in. I was in Samba country and I was stalking a deer and got you on video call.
Yeah. So I had to do hotel quarantine twice.
Oh God.
In Sydney. It was good compared to being deployed. It was fantastic. So I didn't complain. The food was good. I had internet. I had my own bathroom.
I had him. I had one messaging me about all sorts of different things while he was bored in quarantine. And one of the times, I was walking up a ridge in Victoria on one of our Samba hunts. I thought, oh bugger it, I'll give him a ring. So I had him on video as we're walking up through the bush to give him a taste of where we were. It was a bit of a laugh. Managed to lose that deer not long after it. Imagine
Ian does that. Ian does that when deer are around. He does funny things.
Yeah. We'll talk about funny things,
That's
but later.
Other time.
Yeah, for sure. But so that's really good. So then, how did you get into hunting? Like, was this part of your family, or where did that come about?
That's a great question. So, when I was a kid, my godfather, my uncle, he had a farm out in Meredith, which is between Ballarat and Geelong, middle of nowhere in Victoria. Little town that had 15 acres out there, and he moved out there with 6 of my cousins. And being an only child, my cousins were pretty close to me at that age. And growing up, every sort of big holiday, Christmas, Easter, long weekends, we'd be up at my uncle's farm, and he used to get out rabbit hunting and fox hunting and duck shooting out there, and it'd be all the kids, and we used to do that. But I was only a kid, so just used to go along. You'd be Rover, go and fetch the rabbit or the duck after it was shot, sort of thing. So didn't really shoot much at that age, but got exposed to it. And then I used to fish a lot with my dad. And then sort of when I turned, I think while I was at university, at the time, my old man's like, you should get a 22 and go up and hunt on your uncle's farm and chase some rabbits or do some stuff out there. So I was like, okay, and so I got a 22 and never really went out hunting. Just used to go to Springvale Range and just plink targets and that. Didn't really know anyone to get out on some private property. And then a cousin of mine said there's some guys at his work that go deer hunting on the hounds in Victoria. And I was like, oh, okay, that's different. He goes, you got to go do your hound test and that, but they're willing to take you out. Give this guy a call. So I gave this guy a call. His name was Kevin, or Beefy is his nickname. But he took me under his wing, and I hunted with this crew for probably 2 years before I joined the army, and they were awesome guys. And was able to get out and hunt with the dogs and really see some country out in East Gippsland. So that's how I sort of started into it, and then obviously joined the army and went up to Darwin, and all the boys there, like all maintenance workshop guys, they will hunt and fish, and I had a few guys take me out barra fishing and pig hunting, and went out looking for buffalo, didn't get one, but then sort of whet the appetite like that. That's how I got into it. So
I didn't realise that you cut your teeth on hound hunting.
Yeah.
That's how I started. That's how I started on hound hunting. So I still enjoy getting out on the hounds. It's just, it's hard hunting. People say it's easy, but it's very physical. And you cover a lot of country, and the guys that hunt, they put in a lot of effort to cover country and, look after their dogs, chase their dogs. And by the end of the weekend, you're shagged. So it's tough. You probably don't see as many trophy deer. And there's a little bit of luck. And again, you're talking about equipment again. A lot of the guys that hunt and are successful have some really good equipment, like with the tracking collars and radios and that. So they're able to get to the bail ups and.
And I see when I look at them, they don't just have the gear. They are bloody good at using it.
Oh,
like, they know every feature of those things. They understand every little bit of it that they can squeeze out of the tech to give them that advantage. I've seen how good they are.
Since I've been in the army, I haven't been able to get out with the guys that I hound hunt with, just because when you join a hound crew, there's kind of an expectation or commitment that you kind of hunt, every two weeks, 2 weekends a month at least. And these guys that do it, they put a lot of effort in, so you can't just turn up willy-nilly. So I haven't had the opportunity to go out and hound hunt. And now I just like doing things at my own pace a little bit, like just walk around and enjoy the bush and sit and walk and explore. And if you're with the hound hunting crew, you kind of got to go where the crew takes you and chase the dog and shoot the deer. So it's different. It's different. There's a lot more camaraderie about it, like around the Hunters Campfire. Like, people sit around the campfire drinking a beer and talking, and you get together before and after a hunt. So there's a lot more of that social aspect as well with the hunting. So it's different.
I certainly, that's something I really want to do. I want to have, even if I don't shoot, I'd like to participate, or at least get dragged along. I think that that's really something I want to do. I mean, yeah, I'm going to chase buffalo. Yeah, I'm going to do this, and yeah, I'm going to do that. But I'd like to go on a hound hunt. I'd like to see that working dogs, that team, all that, that activity. I would like to really get a first-hand view of all that.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
It's an experience, I'm telling you, it's an experience. And when a hound is voicing in a gully, your hair stands up. No matter what anybody says,
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's incredible. Heart starts racing, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, certainly, it just looks like it looks just such a communal activity, and I think that's what really I think is what really appeals to me. The fact that it's literally this, for want of a better word, but tribe. We're going to go get this thing. And we're going out, and it's coordinated. This is fantastic.
And that's the other thing. Like after the hunt's over, like all the meat's shared, and everybody's celebrating. Everyone's like trophies that are shot, and all the meat's divvied up. They make sausages and pies, and it's very, as you said, communal.
That's it. That's fantastic.
Sounds not too dissimilar to what we've spoken about before, Mark, around going on your driven hunts, where you've all got your posts, or I'm not sure what the terms were, but there's a crew of you that are working together to flush and shoot.
Driven hunts are a little bit different because there's real segregation between the there's. So the guys on the pegs who are the shooters you don't really interact with anyone other than other shooters. So you don't interact with the flushers or what they call the picker-uppers, which is you don't interact with those. You kind of, there is lots of crews and they're all servicing this one activity, but they're very separated. Whereas what I get from hound hunting is like, nah, you're here, you got a job, get into it, do it. Because if you don't, we all suffer type thing. It seems much more utilitarian and more communal to me rather than certainly driven hunts. Being on a driven hunt is an experience, but I wouldn't say and I don't know because I haven't been on a hound hunt. But what I see from a hound hunt, it's much more of a, as I said, a tribal activity or at least I don't know what you call it, a crew, but it's more of an activity of people together.
And they're all known to each other before the day.
Yeah, that's it.
And through the season. Yeah.
Look, when I went on a driven hunt, we had breakfast, but we didn't eat we didn't eat with anyone. We only ate with, the breakfast was around a big table with all the other shooters, not with anyone else. At the end of at the afternoon, drinks were with the shooters. Even the drinks during the day are with the shooters. You didn't even see the other people, and that's what really surprised me most about driven hunts was when the day was ending and we were all driving down, these icy roads and Range Rovers, I got to see all the other people for the first time. And I went, holy moly, there's all these people who've been working all day so I can stand on a peg and shoot a bird, And it actually I have to admit, when it happened, there was a kind of moment where I thought, it didn't sit with me all that well, but custom is custom, and people's customs are their customs. But like for instance, we were literally driving down this, down the hill in Range Rovers, and this farm, a tractor went past with like a caravan on the back, and they were all sitting in the wagon, and that was all the people who had been chasing birds. They're getting driven around in the back of a tractor and a wagon, and I'm getting driven down the hill in a Range Rover. So I kind of, yeah. I mean, like you can't complain, but it wasn't. It was a funny feeling, and that was a pretty, local hunt. I mean, I did go on a farm hunt, which was where you actually did your own drive. Beating the birds. That was more communal. That was a much more communal because you actually participated in that, and people had their own dogs and they were flushing, which probably is more akin to the hound hunting. It was more, there wasn't a whole group of other people servicing what you were doing. So
that's good.
That's why I'm really keen to. I think there's a I really want to see that and experience that. Certainly something that I'm interested in.
It sounds like that the only people that are usually lucky enough to experience it are the committed ones that form part of the crew. Like you're saying, there's probably not too many spaces available for the casual hanger-oner, are they, other than maybe an observer. But
It depends. Some crews are pretty good. Like they wanna share.
Yeah.
Do. So some of the guys that I hunt with, they're pretty open to having people come and experience it. But they're very close. They're very tight knit group. So
Yeah, I bet.
Would be, you know, you don't want to be, you know, you're going to run around and scrub with 12 other people with, you know, someone's armed and there's dogs and yeah, you don't, it's not like, oh, let's find 12 blokes and off we go. You know, I can well imagine there's a hell of a level of trust, and, you know, to make that work.
Imagine being the bloke that missed.
Oh, mate, I've been there.
Imagine it. Oh, you'd feel so bad for the group, wouldn't you? So you left there, went up to Darwin, chased some stuff in the NT. Didn't get onto Buff.
No,
How'd
so
it go?
in Darwin, I had a very close. I call him a close friend now, but at the time he used to work with me. He was a fitter armourer, and he knew that I liked to fish and hunt, and he took me out pig hunting out into East Arnhem Land and buffalo hunting. And we went looking for buffalo. We didn't find any, but we shot some big pigs. So it was a fantastic opportunity. He's a really good hunter. He's, I think, originally from Queensland, and he's still up in the territory. So I still keep in touch with him, and eventually went back and shot a buff with him. And he's a really great guy. So, but he's a hard hunter again, and hunts really. He can sniff a pig out. He's that good. Like he'll walk up on a pig that's sleeping in an old fallen tree root. So yeah, he's fantastic. But yeah, so he took me under his wing a little bit and took me out pig hunting and showed me the NT bush, because NT bush can be pretty unforgiving. Ian's been up there; he's experienced it. It's pretty hot and brutal.
Sent me home. Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. So yeah, so I hunted some pigs up there, never got the buff, but did some fishing again, and then left and worked all over the place. But
how did you go? So you went up there to work, but you said you went back and shot a buff, or your mate did, but you were with him. Was that just a trip back to hunt, or were you going back there for work?
No, so I went back. So when I was in New Caledonia, working as an expat, I was earning quite well. Didn't have any kids. Newly married, I had a little bit more sway with the wife. So I flew back from New Caledonia to Darwin to hunt a buffalo. So
my question was going to be about acclimatization, but coming from New Cal across to Darwin probably wasn't too bad.
I was still bad, but because I think we were hunting in November. It was pretty warm. It was in the build-up, so it was hot.
Yeah.
Very.
How did you tackle that? You know, we've spoken to Brian about that, and obviously people that go up that way, especially in November, far out.
I'd been up there before, so because I'd worked there, and I was mentally prepared for what it was. And the biggest thing with that place is you just got to keep hydrated. And you got to
carry a lot of water, right?
You got to carry a lot of water, and you got to hydrate yourself with a hydrolyte or some sort of magnesium powder or something like that, just to keep yourself in good nick. So, and you got to know the warning signs, and you got to be able to address it before it hits you. So that's how I handled it. But yeah, it's never pleasant when you're hunting in those conditions, especially if you're not in it for an extended period of time.
Yeah. I remember we were fishing the Gulf. We went up, so we towed the boat up to the Gulf country and fished for 11 days. And it was just before the end of the barra season on the west coast, because it ends a couple of weeks earlier on the west coast before the east coast. So the idea was to fish just up to the end of the season and then head home. And it was a bit blowy, so it was hot, but it was blowy. It was okay. So you were full covered, but every day you're out in the boat, there was a breeze on you, so it wasn't too bad. And one day we went up this creek system, and it was pretty shallow and also pretty skinny, and some water. And there was a couple of times crocs got a little bit too close for my comfort anyway. But we went up this creek system, and it turned so we're out of the wind. And then you went, oh, okay, this is what it's like out of the wind here. It was just like, it's like we just drove the boat into an oven. I went, wow, that's hot, man. That's bang on top of your heat. It was just like
humidity. It's just
They just felt when that wind disappeared, just went, holy moly, that's what it's like. And no wonder people, basically, don't last too long if they're not prepared.
So tell us about Newcastle.
Yeah,
because that's somewhere that we've talked about going over the last few years. I haven't quite made it over there with you, but tell us what that's like. What's that all about?
So New Caledonia. So I was working for Silco, Siemens and Tees, and this opportunity came up to work over in New Caledonia, and I was in a happy job with them at the time, and it was with the same company. It was just with a different department. So I was in the NBN side of the business, and then this was with the power and industry side of the business. It's just a different department. This opportunity came up to work overseas as an expat, and I was like, I'd left the army at the time, missed all the deployments to Afghanistan, and I was like, this is a great opportunity to go and work overseas and train a local workforce and interact with different people, different country, different culture. And I was like, I want to do this. So I applied internally and I got offered the position. The only caveat was I had to take my wife with me. They didn't want me to go on my own, which was great because we both wanted to go. So that's how that opportunity came up. I was working for Glencore. It was called Xstrata at the time. I think Glencore bought them, and Glencore and Koniambo Nickel, which is half the country, half of the New Caledonian government, 51%, and then 49% is owned by Glencore. It's like another joint venture, and they had a power station there, nickel mine, big nickel mine, and it was a multinational plant. Like they had, I think it was designed by Australians, French and Australians, and the equipment was from China and India, and they had Filipinos and Koreans assembling it, and Australians maintaining it, the power station. So I was part of the Australian crew, doing the maintenance and asset management of the power station only. Similar to what we used to do out here in Latrobe Valley at the two power stations. So we had some experience, the company had some experience out there doing it, and we brought that over to New Caledonia. So that was a great opportunity. So I went over there. It's about 51 Australian expats, 50 odd, right? And I chose to live in the far north, away from the rest of the expats, because I'd met one of the workers prior to moving there, and I knew that she and her family liked to hunt, and we got along. And yeah, so I chose to live up there, and we hit it off. And on the weekends, when all the Aussies used to get together, I used to go out and fish and hunt. So it was fantastic.
It's Roosa, isn't it?
Sorry, yeah, Roosa, yeah,
Roosa, yeah,
Roosa. So, so the tricky thing about New Caledonia is, again, it's a lot of private land. You can't just go and hunt. It's either tribal land or private. But I was very lucky and fortunate that I'd met someone that was so kind and willing to let me hunt on their property, on their land, because the deer are part of their staple diet. That's part of their food. So they don't shoot trophy rooster. They shoot deer when they're in velvet to eat. So
okay.
yeah, so I was lucky. I was allowed to hunt, and I met some really nice people there. And another guy who took me on numerous occasions out to hunt, and just missing shots and long shots, and because we used to hound hunting. Like I hadn't done a lot of stalking prior to this, and just taking long shots. Like most of the hunting you're doing for sambers and thick sort of scrub, you're shooting maybe 200 yards. That's max, unless you're set up for long range hunting, which I wasn't at the time. I hadn't done a lot of it. So yeah, taking some long shots for, like, you want to shoot a big rooster, you're shooting like one ridge to the next, like
500-600 meter stuff.
Yeah, and I just hadn't had a lot of experience with that, and I didn't have the equipment for it, set up for it. So yeah, so I was lucky enough to shoot some nice rooster there, and I had some friends come over. I took two groups of people over. Some of my hand hunting friends came over and shot. Father and son came and shot two rooster, took them home, and I had one of the guys who was teaching me how to stalk come over and shoot one. And I'm planning to take Ian at some point, and I've got my friend up in the Northern Territory due to take as well. So, but yeah, pretty much now, if I go back there, I don't want to hunt. I just want to see my friends. I spent 2 years there and made some really close friends. Because being quite isolated, you spend a lot of quality time with people. And I learned to speak a little bit of French, so it's been great. I haven't seen these people since 2014, so it's been some time. Okay. So I'm looking forward to getting back there.
And what's the climate like where you were hunting?
So it's typically like North Queensland. It's nowhere near as hot as Darwin at all. Yeah. So it's nice. I'd say it's nice. They do get a bit of a wet season, a bit of a build up, but it's nothing like Darwin. So yeah, it's nice. I'd say it'd be like, I guess, Townsville weather, because it's on the same sort of latitude as that. So
yeah. Oh, I'll look forward to that day. It'll happen at some point. I'll save my rooster chasing for Newcastle.
And I tell you what, mate, it's like 2 or 3 hour flight from Brizzy and Melbourne, Sydney. It's close.
Yeah.
But I think now with this COVID and that, we just got to wait till everything sort of settles down.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to be the people bringing that over there. Yeah, it's this thing is a pain in the neck. We won't dwell on it anymore. But that's great. So Newcastle was a fantastic experience.
Newcastle was a great opportunity, man. And I've had a few of the guys from New Caledonia. They came out and hunt sambar, and all of them shot a deer. We took them out surf fishing down Gippsland Coast and had a ball. So, and a couple of the guys have come up Northern Territory and shot buffalo with me as well. So,
wow.
So yeah, so we've done some stuff. So, and I guess this is what we talk about. Like you talk about free hunting in state parks. Like all the hunting that we've done is with friends, and you just hunt. I go with you and you go with me. There's no paying any money or owing anyone anything. It's just you do stuff with friends, which is great.
It's an important part.
Yeah.
So I've been watching. I watch a lot of YouTube. So Kentucky, that's whitetail, isn't it?
Yeah, it's whitetail country. So initially when I went over there, I did some training. The training is set up at Fort Rucker, which is their home of aviation, similar to Oki and Toowoomba. So I went there first, and it was 6 months of training where you do some courses to prepare you to go to Fort Campbell. So I did the courses down there. While I was there, they're right into their bass fishing, so I was doing that and turkey hunting and whitetail. And one of the instructors on the course, you introduce yourself. I said, I like fishing and hunting. If anybody gets out, let me know. I'd like to come. And he came up and saw me after the class, and he said, hey, anytime I'm going fishing, I'm willing to take you out. And if you want to hunt, my father's got a farm in Georgia, and I'll be going to hunt there. I'll take you anytime you want to go. I was like, sweet, let's do it. That's awesome. So
it goes to show, though. I mean, America is probably a little bit different because their culture is completely different to ours. But yeah, even in our own workplaces here, and customers you talk to and people you interact with in your daily lives, if you don't put yourself out there, you never know whether their family's got an opportunity for you or.
Most definitely.
You won't believe this is an hour south of a massive city in Georgia, Atlanta. So Atlanta's a massive city in America. That's an hour south in the suburbs. You had 200 acres of a farm. The rest of the area was being developed into, neighborhoods and whatever. But he had this 200 acres of bush and pasture mixed in with all the communities. And this was his father's farm. And yeah, we used to drive up every weekend. It was a 5-hour drive up there. But we'd share the fuel and hang out and spend time. Because I wasn't there with my wife either, and his missus was working away as well. So it was perfect, mate. So we'd go up there, we'd set up tree stands, we'd cut shooting lanes, we'd get set up. We hunted the bow season, and then we hunted the rifle season. And it was my first time hunting with a bow. So
yeah, I didn't think you'd picked the bow up before you left, had you?
No, I hadn't. So this is the first time I played with the bow. So he sold me his used point compound bow and taught me how to use it. And everyone was really welcoming. Like there's a bow range there. The guys were showing me how to set it up, tuning my bow, and yeah. So it was awesome. So I really got into that. And yeah, hunted this property in Georgia. Hunted all archery season. Didn't get an opportunity for a shot. The last day of archery season, fired over a doe, ran off, and then fired under the doe, and another doe ran off. And I was like, this is insane. So, so yeah, so I said, well, wait for rifle season. So rifle season came around. First day of rifle season, torrential rain, pouring. Went out that night, didn't see anything. The next morning, pouring again. I thought, you know what, I'm just still going to go. So I went out, the rain stopped, climbed up in my tree stand, and no joke, these deer are smart because they're living around the suburbs, and they get hunted hard. So I saw this buck run out. He's probably, I don't know, 200 yards away, but I couldn't take a shot. It's on my right-hand side, and the tree stand was that narrow that I couldn't turn my body. So he's turned and looked at me in the stand and took off in the bush. And I was like, bastard, how do you even know it's there? But the deer just know where the stands are. They're not stupid. And these farms are being hunted regularly. They know where to avoid. So anyway, come about 11 o'clock, we come down the tree stand and come down real quiet. It was wet. It was quiet. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to walk back to the house. I'm going to go stalk this property and see if I can find this buck, right? And I didn't get a look at his antlers or anything like that. I started walking. Just real slow. I walked into where he ran. And I looked and I couldn't see. It was pretty thick. And I started walking back to the house. And I thought, you idiot, why don't you just take your time and have a look around properly? You never know where this thing could be, right? I would have turned and probably walked 20 meters. And I saw his antlers. He was sleeping. And he was sleeping in some briars. And I saw him just moving his head. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I thought I was seeing things. And I pulled the scope up and I saw him sleeping. And then everybody's told me never shoot a deer when it's bedded because you can't see its vitals. So I was like,
you got to stop and have a cup of tea.
What am I going to do here, right? So I would have probably taken another 5 steps. And then he's got up to stretch. I thought he might have heard me, but he was stretching. And then I sent it the 7mm and hit him, and he dropped there on the spot. And when I walked up to him, he was a beautiful shape, 10-point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful whitetail, and everybody told me I was very lucky to shoot a 10-point as a first whitetail. And for a Georgia deer, he's quite tall. It's very symmetrical, and I was very lucky to shoot him. And then, I was going to cut him up, and the guy goes, mate, you just drop the guts. We take it to the processor. They do everything for you.
Yes.
They've got processors over there. You take the deer there, and you just tell them what cuts you want. They do everything. They skin it. They call the taxidermist. He comes and takes the head, and Bob's your uncle. It's fantastic.
Is it true that can happen now in Victoria? You can take your animal to a butcher in Victoria? Is that
not that I know of?
I think you can now. That law got
it's
passed.
Not everyone, but I think there is. I think a butcher. This is all my thinking, so it could be all wrong. But I thought that a butcher could have nominated someone who would process game meat for you.
Yeah.
So it's not like everyone, but I think they can. Yeah.
I'm sure they allowed it. They're allowed to process it for you, but they couldn't take it and process it to be sold or given.
That's right. Yeah, you're basically you're paying them to process for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in Queensland, the general rule is it's got to go to an abattoir to be killed, or it's got to be killed by a proper game butcher.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a shame. New Zealand's similar. You can take it to a butcher, and it can be donated as well. It can go to food banks and things like that, which is a really good initiative that I saw that they brought out. So so that was whitetail, and that was your first
foray into it. And then what happened was I had to move to Fort Campbell, which is in Kentucky.
Before you go into all of that, how many places did you hunt? I just want to get a feeling for time.
All right, so I hunted Alabama.
Georgia, then Alabama. Yeah.
Georgia and Alabama, and then I hunted Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yep.
That was where I was living majority of the time. Then I had a little hunt in Germany while I was deployed.
Awesome.
And then I hunted in Colorado for elk. Yep. And then I went into Idaho looking for a mule deer.
Okay.
You've had a fair run at it over a year and a half.
Yeah, 2.5 years. 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah.
So
including your posting to, was it Oberammergau you went? No, it wasn't. It wasn't Oberammergau in Germany. It was another UN spot.
No, the Germany one's a tricky one. It's called Operational Atlantic Resolve, so it's not like combat deployment. You're just there as a deterrent force for the Russian aggression. However, now you can see it's actually a real thing. So.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, let's rewind and go back to hunt number 2. So whitetail. Georgia.
So finished the whitetail hunt in Georgia, and then moved up to Kentucky and Tennessee. So I lived in Tennessee, and the base is on Kentucky, which is awesome. So you can hunt both states. You don't have to pay out-of-state license and all that because your primary place of work is in Kentucky, which is great for me. So I was lucky because I could have hunted on post in Kentucky and could have hunted in my home state, which was Tennessee at the time. So that was fantastic. So in Tennessee, I was introduced to a really nice guy there who looked after all the contractors, all the defense contractors that do maintenance on aircraft. And he took me under his wing. He was a big turkey hunter. and he said that he would take me turkey hunting because that was the first season that was going to come around. I was like, awesome. But then he had to he wasn't able to take me, so he introduced me to his friend, and this guy was like the turkey whisperer, and he's a very close friend of mine now. Another guy called Kevin, and he took me out turkey hunting consistently, and I'm telling you what, mate, it is an art form, and it's the most frustrating hunting styles that I've ever participated in. Just the level of concentration and patience required to shoot these stupid birds. But I tell you what, it's exciting. It's very exciting. A lot of sitting and waiting, a lot of calling, and it's a real art form. So, yeah, I had two birds just didn't appear in the right place. And on the very last day, we called a bird in from over 300 yards away, and I stuffed the shot up. I ballsed it up. So, so yeah, I don't talk about the turkey hunt much. I never got one. I wanted one, and never succeeded there. But they're definitely a little fire. So it's similar to tar hunting. It's just hard.
Well, the good thing about tar hunting is you can go and shoot turkeys in the same country because they've got them running around all over the place in New Zealand now as well.
Yeah.
Do they the longbeards?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that they hunt them a little bit differently in New Zealand than they do in the US.
I'd say so.
And it's so strictly
with their bull bars.
Yeah, they whack them on the head with a stick. I've seen this guy literally walk along and whack them on the head with a stick. I love watching. Me and my boy, we watch turkey hunting all the time. I just love it. Oh, I just love it. My wife's just looking. Wife's looking at me going, "What are you doing?" And I'm just, it's 25 minutes. He said, deep, 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 beep, 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 nip, nip, yeah. Here it comes. Don't move. And this little head appears,
Yeah. And they can see you from a mile away.
Oh, yeah. That's what must be. They must have remarkable eyesight because you'll see these guys go, "This one coming," and they'll just stop. And, and they're full camoed up and they got the mask on and they don't even want to move their, boom. I just love it. I love it. I just love watching, the little, the little,
it's a little pot. Yeah.
Yeah. They seem to have three kinds. They've got the pot. And they've got this one little, very small,
to read, a little mouth
ball. Yeah, a little mouth reed. And then I've seen this guy's got like,
it's a wooden box.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's almost like a harmonica. It's this wooden box. Yeah, and
I should have got my props that I haven't turned up yet. They're all coming.
Oh, I love watching turkey, and there's a really good YouTube channel called The Hunting Public, and they're young guys, and they do, and the way they do it, what I really like about them is they actually have guy on the camera and one hunting, so you get much better. You see it, and it's and, that's too many. Just it looks like art.
It's fun. It's fun, but it's frustrating. Like it's just I
bet you would be.
A lot of disappointment. But so did that, and then deer season. Unfortunately, I missed. I was deployed, so I missed that first deer season. And then went to Germany, and in Germany, one of the engineers over there, civilian engineers, he used to hunt ducks and roe deer over there. So he took me a few times just to show me some places and stuff. And before we were locked down, before the base went into hard lockdown for COVID, so I was lucky to do that. But yeah, came back to Tennessee, and then sort of got into the bow hunting space because the guy who took me turkey hunting primarily hunts with vintage recurve bows. So he set me up with a Fred Bear 1969 Tiger Cat vintage recurve bow, and so we were playing with that, and I kind of got pretty accurate and competent with it. And the whole point was to try and shoot a whitetail with this bow. So we were getting set up, shooting lanes again, setting up stands, etc., etc. But yeah, and then sort of while that was going on, a couple of my army mates were keen to plan a hunt over west in some of the big country and chase a mule deer. So a couple of pilots that I'd met through these courses and have become really good friends of mine, kindly enough offered to do a hunt over in Idaho to chase some mule deer. So planned that. We drove from Tennessee to Idaho, which is a massive ride.
How far is that, mate?
I wouldn't be able to tell you the mileage, but it's across about 4 or 5 states at least. So drove across there, and we did 5 days backcountry hunting. So with a backpack.
Nice.
One of the boys pulled a trailer and parked it on the low country. So we had a caravan set up there for a hot shower and a meal in case the weather turned bad. And then we drove to the trailhead and we just walked in. And we would have walked from, I think we drove into about 6,000 feet elevation and then had to walk to 8,000 feet plus elevation. And I was shattered. I was shagged. And it was cold and miserable. And when we got there, got into position, and we had elk bugling just going off there. Like 6-point elk, massive bull, and 2 other junior bulls or younger bulls, but we didn't have elk tags. We had mule
No
deer.
tags.
Yeah.
So we just stood there and took video. And
why didn't you have a tag? That's something you can't buy off the shelf.
You can
over the counter.
We could have bought a tag, but we focused on mule deer. We thought, well, we'll go mule deer hunting.
Yeah.
Well, and so tell me, what would the elk tag cost?
I think the elk tag is about $800.
Right, so it's not something you just chuck one of these in just in case. What about the whitetail that you took? What was its tag worth?
The mule deer was, I think, $500.
And the whitetail from
no tags in.
No tags for whitetail.
No, you're allowed to shoot $2, 2 antler bucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a $500 tag and putting an $800 one in your pocket just in case.
So you have to buy a license and the tag. So all up to hunt, it's whatever species you decide to hunt. If you're an out-of-stater, you're looking at about $1,000.
That's right, because that's it. That's the out-of-state price. So
if you're like, I don't know, $100, $50, it's ridiculous.
That's why in the South, you could, when you were hunting in, well, you said Kentucky and Tennessee, you were classed as a local. So there was no. That's no right. Fee. No fee. You just you just had to clip them to say you got them.
Correct. That's right. So
we I can't remember, Ryan. I can't remember which state it was, but I was listening to something and they said, and because they were trying to cull back some of the predators, for an extra $10, you could get a black bear and a wolf.
That's what we did. So I had wolf tags for $30.
Yeah.
And all of us had a wolf tag, and all of us had a mule deer tag.
Yeah.
And no joke, the first night after I walk in, as soon as it hit dark, we had wolves howling and circling the tent. I was shitting myself.
Oh, I bet.
And it was just on dark. The guys were laughing at me, as they do. But anyway, I slept with a pistol on my chest. In hindsight, we probably should have gone out and shot one of the wolves in the spotlight. But I didn't know you couldn't use a spotlight at the time. And the boys didn't want to move either, so I guess they must have been scared too. Anyway, got up the next morning, we see the wolf tracks and that around the tent. And we went out and tried to hunt. And we didn't see any of those elk. We didn't see any mule deer for 2 days. We walked. We covered some country. We didn't see anything. Little did I know there's an actual wolf problem in Idaho. So now they've opened it up. You can kill cubs. You can kill, pups, I should say, pups. And there's unlimited amount that you can shoot now because there's a problem with the wolves.
Yeah.
So we hunted there for about 4 days, and then the snow came in, like heavy. And the guys that I was with were like, we need to make a decision. Either we move out of here or we stay here and we ride the storm out. But we might not be able to get the car out of here. And we all had to go back to work. So we're like, okay, let's get out of here. So we walked down out of this high country, down and hunted I think it's called sawbrush country I think that's what it's called, down in the lower flats area. So we went down into the lower country and tried to chase our luck there. But out there, all we saw were does, no bucks. It just gets hammered. So, and that lower country is more accessible. There's more roads, open, so, and we'd missed the opening because we were up in the high country. So I don't know how shot up it was. So I didn't see a single mule deer buck for 5 days. Saw a lot of bear sign in the low country.
I think that's better than missing it though, isn't it?
Yeah. Saw a lot of wolf sign up in the high country, and saw a nice, really, really big elk, which was awesome to see.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah. I was watching Meat Eater when he's actually hunting elk in Kentucky as part of the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, yeah.
And he's hunting them in that Kentucky wood, which is, probably a lot. That kind of country is probably more familiar to a lot of us because, it was heavy timbered country.
Yeah.
Must be.
Yeah, sorry. So after that, I went back to Kentucky, and I had a Colorado elk hunt plan. And that was a paid hunt, but it's not a guided hunt. So you kind of pay to have the opportunity to hunt on a private ranch.
Oh yeah.
And there's sort of like a group of guys that run the hunt, and you pay. I think you pay a fee to have access to the ranch, and you buy your own tag and you guide yourself out there. That's it. And there's 10 hunters out there, and I think it was 75,000 acres, 7,500 acres, I think. So it was big. It was a big property. And you got multiple ridge lines and elk and bear. And so I had a bear and elk tag there. And unfortunately, there wasn't any snow. So the elk, this is what they told me, the elk hadn't moved down off their summer range down into this area. So didn't see a decent bull elk on the property that I was. But did see a huge herd of over 100 elk in a neighbouring property, which we didn't have access to. So,
how did your world change, both in this hunt and the previous one, when you were no longer just the hunter? You were also the guy with wolves and bears around you.
Yeah,
I often think about how this would change.
Yeah. So initially, the first hunt in Idaho, I was very nervous. So those wolves around the tent really put the jeebies up me. Like I was nervous at night as well. So the next morning, like we were out there and it was heavy snow, and we had fresh wolf tracks running up the tracks that we were at. Like literally, would have been an hour before we were walking down this track. So they were around. They knew we were there. I don't know if they were hunting us or they were just interested to see if we were hanging meat, because they're not stupid. They know if you're hunting. So I was very nervous. The bear as such, one of the guys was carrying bear spray, and one of the guys gave me his pistol to carry because I was nervous. So I had the pistol. But really, at the end of the day, like, if the bear's going to hammer you, it's going to hammer you. You're not going to have much of a chance if that thing's charging at you, because the scrub you're walking is over your head. Like we're walking through buckbrush that you can't see in. Like there's a little track, but you're covered in trees. If this thing's in there, it's just going to maul you. So I was nervous on the first hunt. On the second hunt, I wasn't as nervous because I'd obviously done that first hunt, so it's just experience and exposure. And I knew what I was looking for the bear sign. Like I knew what the bear shit looked like. I knew what marks to look for, and I kind of knew where they were. The property in Colorado had a lot more bears than it did any wolves, but Idaho had more wolves. So I saw heaps of bear sign in Colorado, like trees that were raked, and bear shit, and like it's nerve wracking. But the bears
it must be, and yet people will get used to it. I understand that. I was reading something the other day about the top 10 most deadly states due to death by animals, and like there's some significant numbers in some of these states. You know, upwards of 500 and 600 people a year are getting killed by animals. Now, I don't know why they died, whether they fell off a horse or whether they got trampled by, a herd of something while they were mustering. It didn't go into the detail, but 500 and 600 people dying in the wilderness due to wild animals. Your brain automatically tells you that I've just had my my skull caved in and parts of me chewed off while I was screaming. Even sitting down and having a brew is not going to be a rest, is it? You're going to be...
You got to be on your guard. Like we were always watching. So part of the way I hunt too, I don't typically like hunting alone. Like I think it's always good to hunt with someone, even if you're not in the same gully, but you're in the vicinity of each other. Something does happen, you've got some sort of support or assistance. But one of the guys shot an elk and shot a cow elk, and he thought it was dead, and then it started moving, so he put another bullet in it. But then when he went over there, he saw the bear marks on it, drag marks on it. So the bear was on it like within minutes.
Wow.
So they're there. I didn't see any bear during the day, but we did see a massive black bear at night. So, but yeah, you can't shoot at night. So, so I did have a bear tag. I was keen to tag it because there was a lot of bear sign. But I don't think there were any grizzlies there. I think that the stakes would rise if there were grizzlies in the area. But most of the bears that are around are black bears.
Yeah, they're known to sort of take off a bit more, aren't they? They're not as aggressive. Yeah, still adds another dimension to the hunt, which look I'm really keen to experience.
Yeah, but America, man, I'm telling you, it's such a great opportunity to hunt. I think, like for me, like New Zealand, I've only been there once, and I think it's just such a paradise, so close, that's so opening, welcoming to hunters, and got such opportunities. I definitely want to do that in the future. And now that I've been to America and met some really nice people in Texas and Tennessee, Kentucky, and now Colorado and Idaho. I mean, it's not that hard. You just need to save your pennies, plan it, and go and do it. I mean, it's expensive, I guess, for the flight. You got to fly over there, and then allow yourself at least another $1,000, $2,000 for your tags and food and whatever. But you're looking at about $5,000. You can get over there and do it.
Yeah.
The trophy thing would be hard. Like I was planning, what am I going to do if I did shoot something? Because you've got to plan. I'm an engineer as well. That's what you do. So if I shot an elk, how am I going to bring it home? This thing's massive. So you have to bring the antlers home and then potentially get the skin tanned and then brought back later, or just do the whole mount there and freight the container, which is going to be really expensive. I got a quote, I think, to ship my whitetail back, and they wanted something in the order of $2,000. So I can only imagine what an elk would cost to bring back home to Australia.
Yeah, I think there's some clever people out there that break it all down, and do things to it so that you can piece it back together like a puzzle. The points can go back on and whatever. When I bought I didn't bring the red deer back from New Zealand. It stayed over there, and when my uncle came to visit, he brought it. And while it was over there, but between shooting it and getting it back to Australia, I was researching how to get it back. And the freighters that specialise in bringing trophies back, just to get it from New Zealand to here was going to be a couple of $1,000.
Yeah.
But there was no reason why I couldn't bring it on as a second bag, right? And we found this out later. No one told us this, but we found this out later. We just created I've got it sitting out here. I can see it. A light plywood with steel sides on it, and we just basically knew what the dimensions of a bag could be at their maximum, and this thing was within 1 centimeter of width and height to be classified as a second bag. So it cost $10 or $15.
The New Zealand and New Caledonia, because I brought heads back from New Caledonia, you can bring the from New Caledonia at the time. You could bring untanned hides back from New Caledonia.
Yeah, you used to be able to bring green hide back, because you can't anymore.
Oh, you can't?
No, you can't anymore. Australia stopped it. But you can bring up to 10 kilos of fresh meat, as long as it's gone through the process at a butcher to put it into vac seal bags, have it stamped for what it is, then you can bring that back. Yeah, so you don't have to leave all the meat over there. But green hides became harder. But certainly bringing the heads back, as long as it's cleaned out. I've got a skull sitting up here. Well, not a skull, but the red head sitting up here behind me. Yeah. It's still pink. The skull is pink. Apparently, I'm colorblind. I can't see it. It looks white to me. But it got dipped in whatever solution Customs wanted to dip it in when it got to Australia, and gave it a pink tinge, which I've never dealt with. But I don't care. It's part of its story, right?
Yeah, because I still got one muntjac skull in the UK, and the little monk. So I got two, and I gave one to a nephew, and he just loves it. And so I'm thinking I'm going to finally get the other one sent over, because I thought we'd be over there again soon, but it doesn't look like it's happening. So I'm going to get it wrapped up and stuck in a mail.
I tell you what, this hunting is just linked, like even just meeting Ian and some of the people that I've met over in United States and New Caledonia, has just made some lifelong friends. You meet some really good people, and been lucky to have a common medium to talk about and do things with people. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's good, eh? Yeah,
right.
It is. It's interesting. Ian kind of alluded to it before. You've got to actually tell people, and it's surprising, because you go, people, might get a bit judgy, but it's actually surprising how many people aren't. They kind of go, okay. Well, I know someone, or they're themselves, they're interested. Recently, my brother contacted me. I was talking to my brother about stuff, and his son is interested in going hunting. So I might be that uncle.
Yeah.
How awesome's that?
Yeah, I might be that. That you hear the story. Oh, my uncle got me in. Well, I might be that uncle. So so I think that only comes about from actually talking to people about it, and then actually, and having a worthwhile story to tell. I mean, some people tell silly, gruesome stories, but having an adventure story, I think, really is interesting to people here. You're saying you went hunting for deer, but you were bailed up by wolves and things like that. That's a story.
I think
that's something worth to tell.
It's the adventure more than the actual killing. It's
Most
the challenge
definitely,
and the adventure. That's what I can't bring it down to. But
and putting yourself in that position too. So like you were going hunting mule deer, but to do that you had to do all these things.
Yeah.
Do that, and those things are far more interesting in a lot of the ways. Having to pull camp because of the weather, and
So I've got some video of the Idaho hunt, which was pretty awesome.
Oh.
So I haven't had time to put it together yet, but I will. And even the Colorado hunt. The Colorado hunt I didn't have as much because I didn't see as much animals, but you can still kind of get a feel for the camp, you get a feel for the country, and get just a few of the characters in that. So I'll put something together and I'll share it on your page, Ian, later on. So
yeah, that'd be great. It'd be good to see it. Really would be good to see it.
You haven't got anything with the turkeys. That's what I'm.
No,
I'm just about to ask that.
I'd love to see that, man. That looks so cool.
So the elk, I just didn't want to break the law because I was flying home.
Yeah.
And if I had done something, it's actually big crime over there to shoot on someone else's land. I'm assuming it'll still be pretty serious in Australia, but over there they don't muck around, especially.
I think more serious. Serious in the US.
Well, more serious over there. So I wasn't playing with that, especially being an Aussie on an army posting over there. Can you imagine the story?
Yep.
So I was like, no, I'm not. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to my wife, my kids, or for my job. So I was like, nah. So that was the elk. The turkey, that was just a missed opportunity.
I'm just ribbing you.
I definitely want to go back and get a turkey though. That's on the bucket list. But
that'd be
the tricky
fun.
thing with the turkey is it's in March, April, I think. Yeah, March, April. Whereas the deer season's in November, late November.
So that's a spring.
Yeah, spring turkey. You can hunt them in fall as well, but the spring turkey's where they're active and you can gobble them and call them in and that.
Okay, I'm going to do some research and find out what the New Zealand turkey hunting is all about. I'm sure it's completely different, Mark, but I've got friends that have them on their land.
What I've seen, it's literally. There's a video of this guy just sneaking. They're asleep on a fence, and he literally works up and whacks them on the head with a stick.
Yeah, but I mean, if you say,
and then they just go eat it, and they go, well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna eat it, but I mean, it's not like, it's like turkey hunting. There's this massive, commitment to calling and the gear and the whole lot, and they might get it, and they put hours and hours and days in, and they get a turkey.
And the New Zealand version comes with a baseball bat.
Turkey, in you go, in the truck, go home.
Well, but they're the same. They are the same bird.
Yeah, well,
is it the same? Is it what?
I believe they're
I'm pretty sure it's the same bird.
Yeah,
there's like 6 species of turkey that they hunt in America. That's called the Grand Slam.
That's right. They are a type of turkey that you would associate with the US. I'm not sure which particular one, or even if they have different. I know because there's the ones down in Florida and
Osceola,
Osceola and things like that. Yeah, so I don't know which one they have particularly because I to be honest, I couldn't tell the difference between them. But I have seen that they have what you would call an American wild turkey in the US. There's been a couple of people who've released them up here in Queensland too.
Oh, because I was going to say there isn't the boys were all asking me, can we come and hunt turkeys in Australia? And I said, I think we have one. I looked it up and they go, what is that?
Scrub
it's a scrub turkey. No, it's a wholly different animal.
Well, it's like rare and endangered. Well, like that'd complete their Grand Slam and they'd be super excited. My dog.
I don't even think a scrub turkey is a turkey. It's like one of those things. It's like the salmon that you catch off the beach that's not a salmon. It's just that's what they called it.
So I know there's turkey on King Island. They have a flock out on King Island in Victoria, in Australia.
Well, there is pheasant flocks around the place. I mean, around here, there's someone's got guinea fowl around here. So, every so often you drive past, you see guinea fowl. But I think there is a property in the Mary Valley. There's a hunting property in the Mary Valley, and they have black buck.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was up there once on a camping trip, and we were driving, and we left camp very early the next day to go to the next camp. And we were driving along, and I looked on this hill, and I went, hang on. And I had to get the binoculars out. Oh, there's a black buck on that. And I took a photo of it. I got a photo of it. I went, that's something you don't see every day up in behind Kandanga, but there it is. There's a black buck. So they're about, but I think what you're talking about is completely different. But yeah, I just love watching that turkey hunting. It just seems so intense.
Yeah.
With it. And they're using a fairly heavy load in the shotguns too, aren't they? They're not mucking around.
They're not mucking around. They're chokes.
Yeah, that's right. They seem to be heavy loads.
Yeah.
And they're getting them close, because when you see them hit, they hit. Yeah,
they use this federal premium TSS load is what they're using.
Yeah,
or Winchester Longbeard is the other one that they use.
Yeah, that's it. I've been watching it. They're hitting
the most commonly seen species in New Zealand is the Miriam,
Texas, eh?
Miriam turkey. And New Zealand's wild turkey hunting experience is one you will not forget. Doesn't sound like a mark, does it?
So it is actually a hunt, you think?
Yeah, there's a hunt. There's very little known about the wild turkey population in the country, except they were first introduced or escaped. They're not really sure in 1860. There was another one. I've lost the page now, but there was another species that's farmed that seems to have got away, but they're well established now in rough farming country. That could be worth a crack on the way over to
If they hunt them like they do in the US, I'd go do that. But if they're just like they are.
You can imagine, like you'd ring the outfitter in New Zealand, someone in New Zealand says, "Oh, yeah, mate, we do exactly that," and they'd get all their mates around and they'd watch you dressing up and putting war paint on, and like they'd be cacking themselves at what's going on there.
Like that, I'd be interested. But if they're just basically got a 2-2-2 and they're saying, "There it is, there, there you go, dead bird." Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be that interested.
We'll do some more research, because that's far closer and it could be fun.
It looks like I tell you, it looks like great fun.
Right, fast forward. Fun. But you're a bird man. You love your birds.
Yeah, kind of. But I unfortunately don't do it much in Australia. But I certainly wing shooting and hunting birds is fantastic fun.
Once we've sampled hare, Mark's going to have a crack at pigeon.
Pigeon. Wow.
I don't need a crack. I've eaten already. I don't need to have a crack at it.
Australian pigeon.
Pigeon's a pigeon, mate.
We're gonna cook it up here and everyone can see it. There you go. Watch the space for Mark's pigeon recipe.
I want to see the hare first.
Well, that's happening. I've got the 22 out. It's ready to go. Once we're finished here, I'll go put it over the paddock and I'll smack 4 or 5, stick them in the fridge, and we'll see how we go.
Perfect.
Right, that's my hunting adventures. What happened after elk?
So after elk, I came home.
That was it.
Oh, no, I had a bit of bow hunting for whitetail.
Yeah.
But just nothing presented. I watched 10 points and 8 points walk out on other people's stands, and I was on the other side of the field. So they hunt a lot of crop in Kentucky. So they've got a lot of pasture out there. So they run mainly corn, and then after the corn goes, a bit of a process. I'm no farmer, so I'm talking out of line here. But they run corn first, then they cut the corn, then they put beans down. Then after the beans go down, they put winter wheat down, and they cut that. So they're running this pasture with something on it all the time. But the deer sort of live. They have bush block in between all this pasture. The deer sort of live in there and come out to feed on these crops. And the tree stands are set up on the edge of fields or on little thoroughfares. They set the tree stands up. I only hunted in a ladder stand because I'm a big girl, but the guys have little climbing sticks and another thing called a climber that they put on a tree and they winch themselves up on. I only went up in a fixed stand, so I had 3 points of attachment at all times.
You're about height aware, are you?
Yeah, just a bit high to wear, and I'm a big man. I don't want to fall. Big tree fall hard, so
Yeah.
I stuck with that. But that sort of limited where I could go to, whereas they would observe the deer and move their little climbing stand to wherever they thought they would go. So
Sounds like
I
Spot
didn't
and
have much
Stalk was
success.
more successful anyway.
Sorry?
Spot and Stalk was more successful for you anyway.
For me anyway, yeah. But it is definitely a good way to hunt. Like it's opened my mind up to it, because initially it was like, well, this is boring. But you do actually get to observe and see the deer in their natural habitat, not being pushed or pressed by a human. So, and once you know where the deer are moving, you kind of pattern them, and you can put a tree stand and you can just sit and wait for them.
Yeah, I'm half considering it. One of the guys in our branch, our ADA branch, had a small block where he was chasing fallow, and for a year, I think he had a tree stand up, and for a year he was sitting in that tree stand, and he would see animals come and go, or he'd see them on his trail cam, and he put a lot of effort into being able to hunt this really small block that the animals were passing through, and he collected all the evidence, and he put himself, and he was up really early and traveling to see it. And he didn't get it in year 1, but in year 2 he did, but not from the stand. Eventually he saw it in the distance and stalked and shot it, but I think he saw it from the stand. And it was a great story. I think there'll be, funnily enough, there'll be a write-up about it in the next Australian Deer Association magazine. So it'd be worth having a look at that. But it's a different way to hunt it. Yeah. And I've got this little red block that I've got trail cams on at the moment, and I'm noticing that there's this beautiful amphitheater, and I set my camera up facing out into this amphitheater that comes down, and to the sort of the top of it's probably only 50 meters all the way around to the top of this thing, this big basin. It'd be a great spot to put a tree stand, and I'm sort of thinking about it because that's where I see all the activity. So I've seen stags there, I've seen little stags there, I've seen lots of hinds and yearlings, and I think it's worth a thought. If I could cut myself a nice quiet way to get in there in the dark, it'd be a good one.
That's the biggest thing. So I was just going to say, so the main these guys that I was hunting with, they bow hunt, and so it's total scent control.
Oh yeah.
Total control of your impact on getting in and out of the stand. You got to really think about how you get in, how you get out, and obviously your scent control. They're the biggest things. If you can master that, then the tree stand will work for you.
Yeah, like it does happen like that, and I think I've been hunting a small block now for nearly a year in the Brisbane Valley, and the deer, because it's a smaller block, it funnels them, and which is good in a way because you pretty much know where you're going to see them. But the thing is, the approach is everything, because if you blow that approach, then that's it. They're gone. So you only really get one chance on them, and it's that that not only thinking about the hunt, but actually getting into position to hunt, and doing that in such a way that you don't blow the hunt even before you start is something that I've become much more aware of. Whereas on a big property, you kind of just start and you go, okay, now I'm picking up sign, and you move towards it. But with that property, you got to be right straight away. You've got to be, and it's even like to the point where I pull up before I get to the property and kind of get ready, then drive that little bit to the point where I'm ready, because you could more than once I've pulled up and the deer just gone, stood up and gone, oh, let's cut him, and gone. So it's that criticality of getting in position. And that's what you notice with those guys who hunt tree stands. They know where that stand is. They're not just kind of exploring. They're going, okay, and they've got to work their way towards it to get in position even before they even think of starting about hunting. It's an amazing thing to see.
It's just something completely different.
Yeah. It's the size kind of it compresses the game, but it also compresses I suppose it's a compression of the mistakes you can make and how they can amplify because it's so small. So something's going to see you. That's right. Something is going to hear you or see you if you're not on your game straight away.
Yeah. Happened to me a couple of times.
Yeah, well, it's happened to me on this block a lot because the deer are generally below your eye line.
Yeah.
And, you know, you literally, oh, there they are. They're, you know.
It snuck in behind
Bang.
me. Yeah.
There it are.
Yeah.
Eye
Did you find that it gave you an advantage? Was it necessary because of the type of block you were on? Did it give you an advantage, or was it just the way they do it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I think it definitely gave you an advantage. If you're with a bow, it gives you advantage. With a rifle, you can shoot plenty of deer, right? But with a bow, 100% gives you advantage because you're close and you can get in and see them moving around undisturbed. But with a rifle, you can sit at the gate and shoot them. You know what I mean? As they come out, like it makes the challenge of hunting totally different, especially out there on pasture and fringe blocks. You can see the deer come out. You know where they're going to come out. You know where they're bedded. It just depends on what side's the wind blowing or where they're going to go. You can shoot them with a rifle, but to get them to cross past you in reach of a bow, that's challenging.
Mm.
So, and then you've got to pull it all together with your bow because you've got to draw that bow without them seeing you, and you've got to seal the deal when you let it go. So, and they sometimes can hear the shot. Depends on how fast your bow is. There's all sorts of stuff that can go wrong.
For sure, and there's lots of bow tuning and bow dampening and things that you can do to minimize that. But I've always wondered whether it was just a cultural, not so much cultural, but it's just the way things have been done for such a long time. Whether or because spot and stalk is not a normal thing for them in whitetail, especially in those sorts of little blocks. But yeah, it's fun to watch.
Did you ever hunt muzzleloader?
No, I did not. It is a thing. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. It's a big thing, but I don't do it. I didn't do it.
Because I mean, a lot of the muzzleloaders now are. It's questionable if they're a muzzleloader, but they're not
People
much
are
of
shooting
a,
at 150 yards plus.
They're not really. Yeah, they're technically, I suppose they're a muzzleloader, but they're just a slow load single shot because they're using those. It's actually the cartridge is pre-assembled and all that stuff. So you watch them. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of the muzzleloader, and they actually must be somewhere when they class their shotgun, they're using that new Ruger 450 Bushmaster.
Okay.
They're classing that somehow is coming in as classed as the shotgun because my mate runs one of those things, and they're basically they're 150 meter cannon. Basically, they're huge. But it must because they're actually shooting with that rifle that he has, but it must qualify within that bracket as a shotgun or something like that.
A lot of good deer get shot in muzzleload season because it's still very quiet. But once rifle it starts, the deer kind of just get smart very quickly. Yeah.
Mm. And watching the shotgun season when they're firing solids and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah. It's an interesting approach how you can, you see these guys, they've got, so I'm bow this week, and next week I'm next week, and next week.
They hunt the whole season.
That's it. They just want to hunt all the time, so they've become proficient across all these disciplines because they want to keep hunting.
And pretty much another thing that they do a lot over there is leasing. They lease a lot of land. So similar to Queensland, they'll have a farmer that they're teared up with, and they'll lease that property. Yeah. 4 or 5 guys that lease that farm, and they all pay their dues, and then they hunt that farm, and they've got access to hunt that farm because it's so tied up and so hard to get access over there that the 99% of the farms there are leased.
Yeah. In the UK, they call that a syndicate. It's the same thing. Yeah, you or it could be forest. It could be a chunk of private forest. Yeah. But you basically join a syndicate, and you've got access to this area for a fee. Yeah. And
so they do have a lot of public land hunting there too, though, which is good. Which is what I was talking about all in the west. But if you come down to the east coast, because of the population and it's all built up and a lot of farms, there isn't as much public land hunting.
Mm. Yeah, there's these guys on YouTube who do this public land hunting, but they hunt within city limits. Have you seen those guys?
Is it Harsh Crew or?
I can't remember what they're called, but they basically hunt within. Technically, they hunt public land, but it might be an acre.
Oh yeah.
It might be. It's just a little tiny block in a fairly built up area, and they hunt this thing and often it's signed like no hunting or no access. But they go see the game warden, and the game warden says, no, that's someone's put that sign up. That's not a real sign. You can go there. Here it is, and and they'll go in. I was watching them. They were bow hunting, so they're going in by boat and bow hunting whitetail, but the boundary line was like 70, 80 meters away.
Yeah.
So they were going, we've got to get this shot just right, because this deer could
You
technically
can't run. Yeah.
it could technically run out of public land. So it was really quite interesting the way they were going about it.
Far out.
Yeah.
So, Juan, what's next? You've done all this. You've landed back in Melbourne. You've got a young family. You must be gagging to get out hunting again.
Yeah,
but what's on the hit list next? What's on the?
But yeah, hoping to get out hunting maybe in April. Start getting back out again. But yeah, just finding time's going to be hard now, I think, and finding free weekends when the wife and the kids are busy doing something, so you can get out for a hunt. It's going to be tough. Or the other option is you do like a big hunt. You plan a week away, like what you guys have got planned later in the year, and you just tear that up for a week and then come back and back to home duty. So it's kind of like that balance. Do you get out every now and again, or you do one big hunt? So it's the fine balance now, because I've done a lot of hunting while I was away in America. So now it's kind of like just maybe pump the brakes a little bit and sort of just realign myself before I get back into it. So, but yeah, looking forward to going back to Newcastle, doing New Zealand, and just chasing sambar here at the bar. I still haven't shot a decent sambar in Victoria. I've only shot a small 20-incher, so I'm keen to try and shoot a nice big representative stag. And I've seen some, but I haven't been lucky enough to seal the deal.
Tough. Yeah, they're tough.
But yeah, that's the plan, I guess, for the next 2 years. I've got 2 years in Melbourne, so I'm looking forward to enjoying the most of it. So
good stuff. All right, well, let us know when you're ready. We're up and down the country shortly. We got ruts and roars and sambar trips planned, so no doubt we'll bump into you somewhere and come and meet the crew again that you haven't seen for some time. So that'd be really good.
Be great.
Yeah. Other than that, mate, I just want to say thanks. It's been a great chat. You've done a lot of cool stuff overseas that a lot of us can only dream of doing. So good on you for sharing. And hopefully we'll have you come back on after you've got back out in the bush, and we'll see what the next adventure is.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ian, and thanks, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Mate, it's been great talking to you.
No worries.
Good stuff, mate. Thanks, eh?
See you, buddy. Bye.
Yeah.